Okay, here we go. Day 1, Honors Higher Algebra. First thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about myself. You got to know a little bit of who this teacher is. It's going to be teaching you for the next few months. You're only here for sure until January. Because remember, it's at the high school, at the semester, a lot of times you end up changing to a different teacher. And I won't want to let you go at the end of the semester because I will have taught you so well. And you will know, so you'll have your basics down so well that I will hate having to trade you out for other kids that didn't get the chance to get a great first few months of practicing and getting good at their basics and stuff. Some of the basics that I do are a little more intense than some people because I care a lot about the ACT because I realized how big of a deal it was for my kids, and so I kind of really make sure you're good at everything you've known from the past. I try to make sure you, at the end of this semester, I hope you feel like you are brushed up on everything you've ever learned. Now that's a lot, but we start with 20. One thing at a time. Right now, what is that guy holding there? Canoe, and that's me, of course. And I've got a pack on the front and a pack on the back. It's called double packing. And that is not easy to do, let me tell you, because there's a lot of weight in there. But that's one of the things I like to do is camp. And I go way back in. We carry the stuff like that down trails. You know what that's called? Portaging. Very good. Has anybody actually gone up and done canoe camping like that before? Awesome. And I just love it. And I usually do it in either the border of Minnesota and Canada, or I actually go into Canada. Sometimes, like this year, I went into Canada and I caught the cycle. My friends and I call it the cycle. That's where you catch all 4 fish that you are usually looking for. Anybody name a common fish in Minnesota that I'm likely to have caught? Because I caught them all in one day. There's really good fishing up there. Yes? Trout. I caught a trout. It's called the lake trout. Yes? Sunfish? Actually, I know they're very common and it's a good call, sunfish, but I didn't actually catch a sunny up there because when you go far enough north, there aren't any sunfish anymore. Those are more of a warmer lakes kind of thing. Yes? Walleye. Very good. If you haven't seen one before, there's one on the back wall back there. I caught one just like that in Canada, and then I saw that one at a garage sale. And I was like, perfect. I don't even have to kill the fish that I actually caught. It's still swimming around in Canada. It's probably dead by now, but anyway, I still have that because I got it at a garage sale. So anyway, another fish type? Northern, very good. Northern pike, yes. And then there's one other kind nobody's mentioned. They have them in Lake Minnetonka also. Yes? Muskie. You're right, the muskie is a very common fish in Minnesota, but not way up north. For some reason, they like to eat the sunfish, and so they stay down here. Bass, you are correct on the bass. Up there, it's actually smallmouth bass, but bass, northern, walleye, and lake trout. So I caught that all in one day. It was a great day earlier this summer, in the early part of the summer. So anyway, I like to do a trip every year. In fact, this year I'm doing another trip. I'm going back in September here in like 2 weeks. I'm going to go up on the weekend. So I'm actually going to take a Friday off, and then I'm going to go in and do just a quick 2-night Boundary Waters trip way up there on the edge of Canada. So anyway, that's one of the things I love to do. I also like just travel in general. So the next slide you see is a big city. Can anybody name that city? So far, nobody without help has been able to pull off the name of that city. And you feel free to guess. Multiple guesses are okay. Yes?
Chicago?
Chicago, good guess. No, bigger than that. Yes?
Montreal.
Bigger than that. Not Montreal either. Yes?
Vancouver?
Good question. Bigger than that. But I'm going to give you narrow out. I know you guys are thinking he went to Canada. I bet it's a Canadian city. That was logical. This is not in Canada. Yes?
Seattle?
Nope. Good guess. Yes?
New York City?
It's much bigger than New York, which narrows it down a lot.
Rio?
It's not Rio, but that's a very good guess because there's a big hillside in Rio where you can look down on the city, so that's a good guess, but it's not Rio. And I'm not sure Rio's bigger than New York, but I know this place is. All right, I'm going to give you one more hint. Nope. But you're getting warmer. All right. Yes?
New Delhi?
It's not New Delhi. No. All right. I'm going to give you one more hint. It's very close to an active war zone. It is Seoul. Very good. It's Seoul, South Korea. My son is in the U.S. military. He's in the Air Force, to be exact. And so, oh, you got a Navy person. Cool. But we're all on the same team, right? So, anyway, he's in the Air Force, and so he does intelligence kind of stuff. And so they're always keeping an eye on that war zone right there because it's an active war zone. They've never actually signed any peace treaty. If anybody just decides to walk from one country to the other, they get shot. It's usually by North Korea, but because they don't want visitors from either direction. They don't want people to leave or come in. Anyway, bottom line, he's just helping out there for the U.S. Air Force, and I got a chance to visit him, and it was amazing. That part of the city, just that part right there, if you extend it far enough into the distance, would be as many people as live in all of Minnesota in that picture. I'd absorb that for just a moment. Not just Minneapolis, all of Minnesota. Because this city has 20 million people in it, and Minnesota only has 5 million. So this part of the city would have enough to be all of Minnesota in one place. Very dense. All right, it was a great experience. And then I took a group of kids. I've traveled every year for quite a while now because once I got kind of started as a teacher, got comfortable teaching, I wanted to recreate an experience that I had in my high school. My science teacher, Mr. Van took us on a trip. And it was just a really cool trip. I just had such a great time on that trip. I got to go with a friend, and I still remember some of the fun that we had together. And anyway, so I wanted to recreate that. So I've taken a trip with a bunch of high school kids every year for a while. We've gone to Costa Rica. We've gone to right on the edge of Guatemala. We went to the Galapagos Islands. And can anybody name this place that there's a picture of here? The picture on the board.
Iceland or Greenland, is it?
Iceland, very good. It's Iceland. So I got to take a group of kids to Iceland. One of we did is hike up a glacier, and that was pretty cool. If you are interested in doing a trip like that, the one I think that we're going to do this coming year is going to be Costa Rica, but halfway through the spring break, we're going to fly to Panama and do a combo Costa Rica and Panama trip. This is a mountain I know we'd actually see. I've been there before. It's Arenal, and it's just an amazing, huge volcano. You kayak at the base of it, and there's whitewater rafting involved too, and it's really cool. Anyway, really enjoy travel. So you heard some music earlier. One of the reasons that that I like this room is I took the time to really fix it up nice, because I realized Monday to Friday I spend more time here than I do at home. Think about that. This is where I live my life. This is where my life is happening. In this room. See, you guys go from room to room to room. You might be in the high school for 6 hours. I'm here for 9. And when I go home, I'm asleep the rest of the time. So I pretty much just have 3-4 hours at home. So 9 beats 3. So I live here. So I'm might as well make it nice. So I've been buying a framed poster every year. I got this one in Seoul, South Korea. That's hand done. That one that's Captain America. That was hand done on oil with oil paints on on canvas. So that's an original. I thought it was really good. I was impressed how a person can do that. Art amazes me like that. Some people are just so naturally talented. So anyway, I've got a picture of the guy I'm going to put up next to that picture of him holding his creation. So anyway, so I'm going to pause for just a second because I'm going to put on some music that you can't hear anyways at home. So I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so music has a strong tie to math too. If you had never pondered this before, there's whole notes, there's half notes, there's quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes. That's all about fractions. And so fractions is a big deal. All right, next, I want to talk about homework and checking it. If you just read over something, like they say, the War of 1829 happened in 1829. Just reading that is enough to help you to retain it, but only just a tiny bit. Rereading notes is one of the worst things that you can do to make something stick. If you really want to make it stick, you have to challenge yourself with a question. I read the book called Make It Stick. And just rereading notes has an impact, but a very small one. If you want to have a much bigger impact, you need to challenge your brain with a question and see if you know the answer or not. Like you would have said to yourself, well, I know that answer. But what if I ask you something like, can you define a prime number? You might be like, oh yeah, I know what those are. Well, I actually want you to do it. Now your brain has to go into a different mode. Find what does prime number mean. Okay, I'm going to think that through. What's a prime number again? I don't know. Okay. I can get an example. I think I know 3 is a prime number, but what makes it prime? What's the difference? Your brain has to do a lot more work when it doesn't see the answer sitting on the paper. If I'd have just said a prime number is a number that has exactly 2 factors, you'd have been like, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, sure you knew that. You'd have been able to give me an example of a prime, like 7, but you probably wouldn't have been able to tell me that it is exactly 2 factors, because that's the definition. So tell me this, is 1 prime? Does 1 have exactly 2 factors? I've seen this wrong in movies before, because a lot of people think 1 is prime. It is not. 1 is not on the list of primes. You can look it up. 1 does not have exactly 2 factors. It only has 1 factor, so it's not prime. And if I said any number that is not prime is, and I say the answer, you'll be like, oh yeah, I knew that. But if I ask it this way, if something's not prime, what is it? Think. Don't say it out loud. It'll just make everybody stop thinking. If it's not prime. How many of you heard what they said? Somebody said it in the back. Anybody already hear that? Okay. Then what do you think it is? See, your brain's going to remember it more. Now that you struggled with it for a second and then are told the answer, you'll remember it better. If it's not prime, it's composite. So for instance, like 8. Would you agree that 8 is not prime because it has lots of factors? Okay, so prime, if it's not prime, it's what again? Composite. And the fact that I made you think about it before I told you means it's better than just blurting it out and saying, well, if it's not a prime number, it's a composite number. You won't remember it nearly as well if we do it that way. So the same applies to your homework. Your homework has the answers posted. Is that a good thing? Yes, it's absolutely a good thing. I really like having the answers posted. You will not have to suffer at home and go like, I want to figure this one out, and I don't understand it, and it's driving me crazy, and I'm going to have it wrong on tomorrow's homework, and it's just driving me nuts. And some kids will stay up for like an hour and a half trying to figure out that one question. I don't want that. You're going to have the answers and the worked out solutions like the whole way. But the same thing happens as what we were just experiencing a second ago, where if I just said something like a fact, like, oh yeah, prime numbers are numbers that have exactly 2 factors, you'd think you'd have known it. It's better for you to realize whether you know it or not. So here's what I'm saying. You have homework. You get to your homework tonight, and you're going to have to do some problems. It's true. I actually am assigning you some homework. It's not going to be much, just a few problems. But if you get to them and you're like, yeah, I totally know what to do, and you just do them, it'd be really smart for you to take a moment and check them. But in the old days, like last year, I betcha you were allowed to see the answers right away as you were doing the problems. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. I did it that way too, but we're making it better with the same idea of you have to first show me what you know without looking at the answer key. Your first submission of your homework will be what you could do without the answer key. But then, without any extra charge against your grade, you get a chance to, after you've hit submit, it'll release the key. Now you can look at your key. Now you can look at it. Now you know what you really knew how to do. No faking that you totally knew everything this way. You'll either know it or you won't. And if you have to be more real with yourself, that you're like, yeah, I thought I knew that, but I'm looking at the key now. I did not know how to do that. Can you fix it? Yes. Can you even get those points in homework? Yes. But we'll know what you knew before you looked at the key, and then what your score was after the key. And the only problem is going to be if people are just doing like 2 questions off the homework, hit submit so they can see the key, so then they can go do all the rest of them. if we have that problem, you and I will be talking about it. But I'm not saying you have to be right every time. I'm just asking you to try the problems before you look at the key. Then you hit submit, key opens up, then you can look at the key. You can even change them and you resubmit the homework and it'll be called submission 2. And then I can see what you did after you looked at the key. And you get those points. You can't stress that enough. It's not like, oh, I wish, I don't even want to go back now because, I only get graded on the first one. No, you get graded on the second one. But I want to know how much you knew first. And research shows you will remember it better because you will be forced to admit to yourself, yeah, I don't know what the definition of a prime number is. But then I looked and I found out. And now I know that. But it'll make you remember it better. All right? So that's the plan. And now what's it actually about? Well, let's get to it. We're going to talk about respect for 2 seconds first. Now I know people have different expectations and you can't be expected to know what my expectation is on cell phones yet because I hadn't told you. Now I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to not embarrass anybody today for anything that you have done today because you didn't know what my rules are as far as homework, or not homework, sorry, as far as cell phones are. But my rule is like this. I think it's a very reasonable one. I don't like it that some schools, in fact, all of France and some schools in California, for example, have outlawed cell phones. They cannot have one at school. If you have one at school, we will take it away and you'll be suspended from school. And, you can't have one at all. I don't think we need to do that. But are there times that I think you need like to be in trouble for having your cell phone out? Yeah. I honestly think they should do this at the staff meetings at school because I see it, teachers take the cell phone out while the principal's talking. That's not respectful. And I've even done it myself. When I get a text, I'm just like, oh, I really want to see you. He doesn't have any rules. If he did, if he was like, if I see you with your cell phone out, you're going to come and talk to me after the meeting, I'd be like, crap, keeping my cell phone in my bag. Don't want to be in trouble with the boss. That's never good. But he doesn't have any rule like that. We're just expected to be professional. It's a different level than a high school kid. You guys aren't treated the same as an adult who's 25 and got a degree, right? But the respect thing is, you shouldn't have it out, in my opinion, and therefore in my classroom, until the last 10 minutes of class. And once it's your free time, totally okay with it. I don't mind if you have it in your hand walking in and texting and whatever, that's fine. But as soon as the class has started, it needs to go away. All right? So if you have it out, it has not been a problem. But for right this moment, would you please set it in your backpack, stick it in there. I don't want them upside down on your desk. I know what that means. That means as soon as the text comes in, you're going to slide it off the desk and take a look at it and see what, don't do that. If I catch you looking at your phone during class, that's going to be a problem. I'm not going to yell at you. I will just have you put it on my desk, and then you will be able to gather it up again after class, as long as it doesn't keep happening. If it keeps happening, then it gets to the next level where I have to report you to the principal. If that happens from 3 different teachers, you do get your phone taken away. That is the thing. But it has to be a problem in multiple classes reported by multiple teachers. Okay? So hopefully that won't happen. All right? So I betcha many of you will have your cell phone out at some point because you just forget and it's sitting there. I'm not going to be mad at you. Only problem is the chronic offender, the person who just does it over and over again. It's like, come on, can't you get it through your head? And I still won't yell at you, but that'll be more obvious when that's a problem. Okay? So that's one thing I would ask that you would do to show respect. I know most of you guys are not talking when I'm talking. Most of you guys are not watching a CNN video while I'm talking. Okay? But it's much more likely that somebody's going to have their cell phone out, and that would be a way of disrespecting me. And I would also like to show respect to you. How will I show respect to you? For instance, right now, I didn't yell at people for doing things that I hadn't even told them were not okay. You know what I mean? I'm not going to embarrass you. I don't want to embarrass you, not on purpose anyways. And I will really try to be careful about if I need to talk to you about something, I'll do it outside in the hallway, or hold you after class when everybody's gone. I'm not going to say stuff in front of other people. If I'm I have had that conversation with kids tell me, is there something going on in your life? Because, you're all of a sudden you stop doing your homework, you look kind of spaced out in class. I mean, I need to talk to them, but I'm not going to do it in front of everybody. All right. I've caught so many people picking boogers out of their nose, but I never once have said, "Get your finger out of your nose," or like said anything to like embarrass them. So I'll be respectful to you. I would ask you to be respectful back. All right, let's move on and talk a little bit about positional memory. This is why I'm going to put you in a seating chart, and you will have a little bit of input on that after the fact, after I put you in the seating chart. If you, for instance, get placed next to the kid who's been bullying you since 6th grade, I can make a change. If it's a vision issue or hearing issue, some people just pay attention better in the front row. I can often work with that. Arguing that you pay attention better in the back row by your friends is going to be a tough sell. Okay, but I want to be in the front row is easier for me to count it. Can't always do it, but if necessary, let me know. I've especially had really short kids be like, "I can't see the board. Please put me in the front." That can be a thing. So, all right. There's a positional element to your memory that I don't think a lot of people know about. One of my jobs, in my opinion, is to try to teach you things that will stick beyond just math. If I teach you something about your brain and about how you learn, that's going to pay off for the rest of your life. Think about it. You're not always in a math class, but you always are going to be learning. You're going to be learning forever. Like even people, my dad, when he was 80 years old, got an iPhone. And he learned, actually back then, it was an iPod Touch. He's now been gone for quite a few years, but he lived from 80 to 85 learning how to use an iPod Touch. And, by the end, he was pretty dang good at flipping through that thing. And he was 80 and he figured it out. My point, you're going to be learning for the rest of your life. And if I can help you to know how your brain learns. I'm not teaching your hair. I'm not teaching your arm. I'm not teaching your knee. I'm teaching your brain. And so I've learned a lot about how your brain remembers and encodes things. One of them is that there's a positional element to what you learn. It's kind of like this. If I take a picture, so I grab my cell phone here, and I take a picture with it. Did you know that when I won't do it because somebody's going to be like, "Oh, don't put my picture on the internet." So I take his picture. I didn't, but if I did, do you get that it records exactly where I took that picture? If you didn't know this, it is true. You can go through somebody's phone, like let's say they're able to crack a bad guy's phone, and they can go through all his pictures and figure out exactly where he was when he took that picture. You know what I mean? So let's say he's got a picture of bomb-making materials on his phone. They can find out exactly where the bomb-making materials were when he took the picture. Know what I mean? Be like, "Oh, that's at your friend's house. Okay, now we get a warrant to go search the friend's house and we find the bomb-making materials." Sometimes people don't know that the pictures have a geotag on them. Well, your memory does too. Where you learn something first is recorded in with that memory. The way we know that is they have tested kids, and they have found that if they test them on something that they learned in this seat, but then they make the kid move over there to take the test, that there is a statistically significant difference in how they will do on the test. It's good evidence if you ever want to use this in your English class. She decides to do a new seating chart the day before the test. That's really not a great idea. It's going to hurt everybody's grades. Statistically proven. So if I'm about to teach you some math, which I am, I'd like you to be in the spot where you're going to stay. Now, is it like you fail the test if you move over there? No, but there's a difference, and you remember things best where you learned them. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to move, but not yet. You may gather your stuff, but don't get up, because I want to tell everybody where their seats are. I'm going to pause for a minute while we do this. Don't need to hear that on the video. Okay, we got people in their seats, so now we're going to try to remember a few names. I'm going to give you a technique. Many of you are young enough that you can memorize things really quick and easy, and there's others of you that have had the experience like me where somebody introduces themselves and you're like 2 minutes later you have no idea who they are. That happens to me all the time, and I know for a lot of you it's true too. So I'm going to give you a technique that works really well. First of all, I got to establish something. There's two kinds of memory. There's actually many kinds of memory, but one of them is based on visual, and the other is based on auditory. Visual memory is much stronger. I'll give you an example. Can you think of anything that you can hear over again in your head that happened this summer? Can any of you, on the other hand, think of, okay, now there can be sometimes there's an exception because it was something that was so special. Like, let's say it was the first words of your little baby brother, and he said, your name was his first word. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. But that, it releases a special chemical in your brain, which causes you to remember it. Things that are especially traumatic or exciting, that can happen. But otherwise, auditory, you don't remember the stuff that well. Visual, way better. I'll give you an example. How many of you saw a movie? Maybe the Avengers movie sometime, or saw a movie over the summer. I bet you if I asked you about that movie, you could recall a scene or two, or even several in your head. For instance, I saw the Avengers movie, and what was it, Endgame? Is that the one that came out? And if I just say that, some of you are going to be like, oh, I remember this scene. And I remember when that moment when he did this or whatever. Why? You saw it for 1 second. Why do you still remember it? It's amazing. Your visual memory is way better than your auditory memory. So the point is, if you're going to remember somebody's name, it's best if you can do it with the person in the room because you're a visual person. And then if you can visualize their actual name. It's hard to visualize Eric, for example. This is Eric. And he is actually, when I typed in random kid on Google and searched, he's random kid. And somehow he got posted up there as one of the top hits, and he kind of just looked like a normal kid that would be about the right age. And so anyway, I pulled him as an example. And I didn't know what his real name is, so I said it was Eric, to give you an example. So I need to have something, I can't associate an Eric and him because I don't know what an Eric looks like. You know what I mean? There's no like picture of an Eric that I can have in my head. Like if I use it wrench, I would totally know what a wrench looks like. Or screwdriver, I know what that looks like. Band-Aid, I know what that looks like. Okay? But Eric, I don't. But I do know what a derrick looks like. If you don't know what this is a derrick. It's the thing that they build over the oil wells and they drill oil with those. That's called a derrick. And I personally know what that looks like. And you might not have chosen that because you don't know what the heck a derrick is. But I said, oh, it's Derek. Eric, Derek, it rhymes. But I can visualize a derrick. And then I have to decide what about him is the thing that stands out. Now, different people are going to say different things. For me, the thing that stands out about him is three things that I could pick from. One, he has super black hair. Like if I look in this room, there might only be one, maybe two people who have as black a hair as that guy has. That's really black hair. Okay? And number two thing that kind of stands out about him is a little scar. Anybody else notice the scar on his face? All right. Your eye catches it. You kind of wonder, like, I wonder what happened, you know? For my daughter, she got a little scar on her cheek. It was because this neighbor kid was chucking little cars up the slide, and that's no problem with that. I mean, I'd done that, you know, little kid kind of stuff. Now my daughter goes to the top of the slide, and she gets to the top of the slide, and she just steps up there in one of those little cars, and he whips it up there, and it goes, choo, just like took a scrape off the top of her cheek, and it scarred, left a little scar on her cheek. There's always a story behind how you got the scar. Anyway, it did actually heal later. That is where I would put the derrick. Do you get where I'm going here? I am going to, in my head, visualize a oil derrick right there. And I'm going to go, oh, I can see that in my head. That's a picture, and I'm good at visual. So I will remember that is a derrick, and that little spot that reminded me of him will say, oh, Derek, Eric, oh, that's Eric. I got it. Okay. Guess what I'm going to remember for you, Choo-choo? And what do you think my thing is going to be? A train. It'll be a train. So a train will be going through your hair, and I'll be like, choo-choo train. Oh, and then that's choo-choo. Okay, so I get to pick what stands out about you, but I'd love it if you would pick the thing that rhymes with your name. You know, when your name is choo-choo, it's going to be pretty obvious to me that that's going to be a choo-choo train. But what if your name is Elena? Well, you can go with anything that rhymes with Elena, or if you want to go with the Lena part and then maybe something that rhymes with just the Lena part. I'll give you a few examples. Stove. Who do you think I think of when I hear stove? Well, it would be Steve, of course. The first two letters, S-T, Steve, stove. Even though it doesn't rhyme, the first two letters are the same. You can go with the first two letters. It could even be the last couple letters. All right, let's take a kid for example. I do not know you. True? Well, at least you don't know me, right? All right. So what is your first name?
Sure.
All right. So then we have to find something that rhymes with, and I'm going to pause the video for just a second to keep the names secret. Okay, so one of the things you do not want to pick is their smile because, get it, you're not always smiling. Like a kid might have an amazing smile that really stands out. So when I look at your school pictures, you're all smiling. In the class, you're usually not. So picking a smile is a bad idea. You want to pick something that's not a smile. I've had some people with eyebrows that are amazing. They look like they were painted on. They're like thick and like lush and okay. So maybe it's the eyebrows for some kids. For other kids, it's like they've got eyes kind of like my daughter, where they've got a little bit of the dark around the eyes, not like eyeshadow, but more like I don't know, like not enough sleep eyes. Yes, okay, that could be it. Or for some people, it's their hair is unique. One of the kids in my last hour, he had very curly, super curly hair, like just beautifully curly. Like you'd have to spend tons of money to get your hair to have that much curl, but it looked natural. And then his name was Sam, and so you know Sam apparently. Okay,
I think so.
okay, probably.
This is the right curly haired Sam.
There can't be that many curly haired Sam. So here's the connection I made. Just hold on. Was that somebody said, what rhymes with Sam? And somebody said, damn. And of course, it stuck in my head immediately. Now, I'm not talking about the bad word. I'm talking about the thing that holds back the water. So the curly hair is like the water flowing over the dam, of course. And then the one last piece I want to add is if you can also remember something, an action happening. I've got a dam and I got the water. The action in this case is there's a kid throwing a soccer ball, bouncing it off of the dam. Why do you think I'm doing that? Because he likes soccer.
It is Sam.
All right. Okay, so anyway, my point, that's just one kid. I want to know what it is for you. Okay, so what's your name?
Graham.
All right. So now the challenge would be pausing. Okay, so based on your brief research, what did you think? 9 or 1? There's the two answers. There's two answers. There's the 1 team and the 9 team. Raise your hand if you're on the 1 team. Raise your hand if you're on the 9 team. All right. So let's figure out what it is. Do you know what you do first? Everybody knows this part. What's first? Parentheses. And therefore that's what? All right. And then multiply comes before divide, right? So then this would be next. Nobody want to stop me because that's wrong. What? Let me tell you. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract should be written like this. It should not be written like that. Multiply and divide, it depends which is on the left. Multiply and divide are tied. Multiply is not before divide. Multiply and divide are tied. And add and subtract also tied. Don't do all the adds first and then all the subtracts. So moral of the story, yes, this is 3. You guys got that right. So now it's 6 divided by 2 times 3. Now you go from left to right. What is 6 divided by 2? 3. What's 3 times 3? Oh, nobody picked the right team. I'm not messing with you. You can put that in the calculator and find out if you think I'm losing my mind, but I'm not. The right answer is 9. Oh, please give me a second. Yes. If you distributed the 2, the answer would remain the same. All right. So your homework, there's a worksheet on those, and you only have to do the evens. The evens of the worksheet, it is in the same exact place. 9-3, find it, do the evens. I'm hoping it's 15 minutes or less, and it'll get your brain warmed up. Have a great day.
Sorry about that. Our teacher let us out early.